It stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news. Let's get straight into it. Look, lots to discuss this morning. Erik ten Hag's last chance. Bit of a hit piece in the Manchester Evening News, in fact. We'll delve into that. They're basically calling INEOS out, saying that they need to accept their mistake and sack Ten Hag because everybody knows it's going to happen. I mean, look, they're journalists. They've got every right to write what they like. We've got every right to have our opinion, and you may well agree with it. We'll talk about that. Also, a bit of an interesting piece later on. Have you seen this thing about Toni Kroos saying he would have signed for Man United if David Moyes hadn't got sacked? That's an either or, isn't you? You keep Moyes, but you sign Kroos. You get rid of Moyes and you don't get Kroos. Interesting. But also, we do have, we should have a poll up and running. I don't know why that didn't happen. I will get that poll up and running for you now. I set it up. I don't know why it didn't go. Cristiano Ronaldo. I've listened to what Solskjaer had to say. Would we have been better off not without Ronaldo? Ronaldo, yes or no? Get involved with that one. Basically, what he said was players felt less important. The dynamic of the team changed, and I lost my job within 10 weeks. So we had to get him because he was going to go to Man City, but ultimately, did it do us any good? And I suppose there's a bigger point there, isn't there? Was bringing Cristiano Ronaldo back a good idea? Did it ultimately set us back as a football club from something that, would Solskjaer have got sacked if Ronaldo hadn't have been brought back? I mean, it's an interesting one. I've always thought it's an interesting conversation. We'll talk about it, but I just can't move. I can't move past the fact that if you offer me Ronaldo to come back tomorrow, I'd still do it. It's just. Yeah, it's an obsession, I suppose, for some of us. That's what Ronaldo is. But I can see why people would look at it and it would have been very, very interesting. Well, we'll have that chat. Of course. A couple of bits about a couple of transfers for Manchester United around this Sunderland lad, Chris Rigg. That is interesting, and he said some interesting things as well. But let's get into what we're here to talk about at the start of the show. We're going to be talking about Manchester United, of course. I'm doing Man City Newcastle on That's Football Today and Wolves Liverpool if you want to join me on there. But let's talk United. So I want to get into this piece that's come out from the Manchester Evening News this morning. It's basically, to summarise it, is there any point? It almost feels like there's not any point in carrying on because he's inevitably going to get the sack. INEOS need to accept they're wrong and move on from Ten Hag. They lost their nerve in sacking him in the summer. The players know it. The staff know it. So they may as well just get on with it because it just feels like a waste of time. And that's basically what they've said the day before we're about to play Spurs. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that would agree with that. But you know what? I every night, I get a message from somebody, or I wake up in the morning and I read something about somebody who apparently knows something about what's going on. I mean, I read something this morning that INEOS are demanding a better style of football and Ten Hag's got 2 games to change his things and they're not happy with this and not happy with that. And I'm like, mate, you don't know anything. You literally don't know. And this is coming from people who were telling us who we were going to sign in March and we bought none of them. So I'm not disrespecting that. I predicted who we'd sign in March and I didn't get any of them either. We need to accept that these sources don't have fucking sources anymore. They don't. That's one of the big positives about INEOS. The only people who are breaking anything, and I know this for a fact because it's killing the journalists who do the press conference. They hate it. They're angry about it. Is that Ornstein and Romano were the only 2 that were getting the brief before it came out, and they weren't getting it that much before it came out anyway. There is nobody. So don't listen to them because there is nobody who's got an in at INEOS who is getting told stuff by INEOS so they can put it on their Twitter account. Nobody's getting it. And I think that's great. I think it's great. I mean, obviously, it leads to conversation and speculation and conversation amongst Man United fans, which is, can be good. But nobody out there is getting, a DM saying, oh, you know what, mate? I know you've got a Twitter account. I know it's not one of the biggest United Twitter accounts, but you know what? I'm going to tell you that, we're just not happy with the style of play at the moment. And I tell you what, if he loses to Spurs tomorrow, I'm happy for you to put out there that INEOS say he's probably on borrowed time. Nonsense. It's not the case. It's all guesswork. But I think tomorrow is... I think it's his last chance with some United fans. That's what I think it is. And they're the people who I think matter more than anybody. I think they matter more than Sir Jim Radcliffe. I think they matter more than the Manchester Evening News. I think they matter more than TalkSport or Sky or anything. The most important people when it comes to a Man United manager's future is the fans. And I think tomorrow there is an element of last chance for a lot of people. I read a lot, I see a lot, and I think there's a lot of United fans that if we win tomorrow, they're more than happy to get on board and stay positive. But if we lose tomorrow, and we lose tomorrow because Ten Hag makes bad selections or bad calls, I think he's going to lose a percentage of those fans. And I'll say that clear today. The media can't drive this. INEOS can't drive this. I can't drive this, you can't drive this. This is just natural occurrence that happens in any fan base of any football club when you get to the point where we're at the moment. And whether we should be at this point, well, that's up for debate. But if we lose tomorrow at Old Trafford against a team that's basically trying to do what we're doing, the parallels of tomorrow are massive. You've got Spurs with Ange who want to win things, who don't win things, who have this massive psychological block on winning trophies, but are playing a good brand of football and want to believe in their project. And then you've got Man United, who are capable of winning trophies, we've proved that, but seem to be unable to get near the top four. And losing tomorrow would take us further away from it, from a team that is perennial bottlers. So I think the significance of tomorrow is huge. It's sort of two teams parallel, colliding. Will it end up a draw? If it's a draw, it's a halfway house and everyone continues to the next challenge. Whoever loses tomorrow is in a crisis. Whoever wins tomorrow has got momentum. So there is huge ramifications for tomorrow. But I want to, just before I talk about some of the decisions that Ten Hag might make tomorrow, I want to pick apart this article in the Manchester Evening News because it is a news show. And I know a lot of you already agree with it because you want Ten Hag out. I get that. But this, to me, just completely and utterly misunderstands what INEOS are. It's derogatory and it's embarrassing how little research has been done around INEOS to actually, basically say that they need to accept that they're wrong. They lost their nerve. They should have sacked Ten Hag, and they need to accept that they're wrong about that and make the change because the players know that they're weak, the staff know that they're weak, and they know that they lost their nerve. It's incredible. It's incredible that somebody would actually think that happened. It didn't happen. That's just the words of somebody that wanted Ten Hag to get sacked and didn't get what they wanted. So they throw their frustration at INEOS, which is a novel change from doing it towards Ten Hag, to be fair. But Man United did not lose their nerve in sacking Erik Ten Hag, and INEOS did not and are not going to just go, well, you know what, let's accept we got it wrong. They're not going to do that. Like, they went through a strategic review and they came out at the other end with Ten Hag because they didn't feel that there was anybody better than him available at the time. If I would say, Ancelotti's the easier. If Ancelotti was available, he'd be the manager of Man United. I know that. You know that. What they did is, they looked around for something better. They couldn't find anything better. Erik Ten Hag himself said, it wasn't ideal. I didn't like what happened, but I was confident that I was the best man for the job. They were new owners in a way. They wanted to look and make sure that they had the best person for the job, and they do. And that's what happened. Now, you disagree with it, you agree with it, that's up to you. But I think it's massively naive to start throwing stones at INEOS and saying, they lost their nerve. They need to accept that they were wrong. I don't think they will be wrong. I genuinely think when they sack Ten Hag, because, inevitably it will happen, the only manager not to be sacked by Manchester United in the Premier League era is Sir Alex Ferguson, and he's one of the very rare managers that gets to walk. Wenger got sacked. Mourinho gets sacked. Most managers do get sacked. When INEOS sack Ten Hag, it won't be because they got it wrong in the summer. I think they got it right in the summer. I think they made a decision based on that situation and felt that they needed to see what this Ten Hag project was. When they sack him, they can't be accused of not giving him a chance and not doing the right thing, which I think was the right thing. He just won an FA Cup. We just had a horrible season. I would have kept him on because I would have said, well, I want to see what year 3 is going to be. I want to see what the trilogy is. Is it, is it the Dark Knight trilogy, or is it the Godfather trilogy where the third year's crap? So I think they were right to do what they did. They took their time doing what they did. They didn't lose their nerve. There was no one to lose their nerve for. They basically ended up with Graham Potter or Gareth Southgate. Tuchel moved out of the job. So there wasn't anybody else anyway. And I think people need to remember that. I'm all for people having different opinions. But who was going to take the job in June? Oh, we should have sacked Ten Hag. I'm right. I told you so. Who for? Potter? Southgate? There wasn't actually anybody to take the job. And this is what I mean about, I was talking about this last night about Bruno. Oh, he's shit. I've always said he's shit. Well, he's not. He's not been very good for the last year, but he wasn't shit the first 2 years he was here. And, oh, we should have sacked Ten Hag for who? Who are INEOS admitting they were wrong about? Who didn't they hold their nerve for? There wasn't another manager out there that suited the Man United job at that time. And, we ended up with what we've got. Now, you could argue we ended up with what we've got because there was nothing better. I think that's a fair assessment. But I think trying to throw stones at INEOS is ridiculous. I think they've done a lot of good things in the time that they've come in. I like what they've done with the structure. I like what they've done in the transfer window. I think there's a hell of a lot more to do. But I don't think if Ten Hag gets sacked, INEOS should ever be held accountable for that. I think it was the right thing to do at the right time to give a chance. And if that person doesn't take that chance, it's like giving somebody a second chance, isn't it? If your friend lets you down and you give them another chance, are you a bad person for doing that? And if they let you down again, you just go, hold on a minute, once bitten, twice shy, goodbye. I don't think INEOS did anything wrong in giving him the job, and I don't think they were weak, and I don't think they lost their nerve. I mean, it's preposterous to think that INEOS were going to sack him and they didn't do it because of the fans. Look, we made a lot of noise. A lot of us made a lot of noise, but I don't think they listened to us, really. I think they made their decision that was best for them. But let's talk about tomorrow. I think tomorrow, isolated incident is huge. I really hope, and I think we will, but I really hope we get a massive atmosphere at Old Trafford tomorrow, because I don't want anything on the fans, and I want everything on the club, on the players, and on the manager. And I think if United go there tomorrow with the right atmosphere, then it's all going to come down to the people that matter the most, which is the people on the pitch. They've got to be together. Apparently they are together. That's one thing that's not coming out of the club and hasn't really come out of the club for a long time. There doesn't seem to be any dissent or moaning. From the Rashford stuff last week, that was all coming from the press. It certainly wasn't coming from the club or Rashford or Ten Hag. All this rumour mill that, Scholes said it himself. He must have been up to something. Well, mate, you can't keep that sort of stuff out. If Rashford had been out on the piss or anything like that, which is what the people were insinuating, it would have come out. So the players are together. They're behind the manager. The club are behind the manager. I think the fans in the ground tomorrow will be behind the team. The ingredients are there to go and perform. The question is, can you trust them to perform? And obviously, I can't sit here today and say that I trust them to perform. But I think what tomorrow comes down to for me is, and I don't think if we lose tomorrow, I'll be sat there saying Ten Hag out. I really don't think I'm going to be one of those people that after a Spurs loss, I'll say Ten Hag out. I still think it's too soon, in my opinion, but I think I might be in the minority because it's a home game against a rival that we should be beating. And there's no excuse not to put a performance in. But I think the big things for me tomorrow, that if we did lose tomorrow, I would concede, as I've conceded a couple of times this season, that we are on the road to the end, and there might be an inevitability to it. But I think the things for me tomorrow are going to be very much around team selection. I think the things for me tomorrow are going to be very much around substitutions. I think the thing for me tomorrow is really going to be about how we approach the game. I think it's such it's such a volatile game. I don't think we sit deep and counter. I know a lot of people saying we should sit deep and counter because they play a high line, and we could counter with pace from Rashford. But then I think there's a problem. Look, if someone's saying to me we draw the game playing the way we want to play, or we win the game counter-attacking, I'd take the win. I'd counter-attack. But if you go back to counter, you're back with Ollie again, aren't you? you're back doing what Ollie did. We know Ollie could beat anybody on the day, but we couldn't do it consistently. So if we counter-attack Spurs, we're sort of defending at Old Trafford against the team who's the away team. I think if we're going to win tomorrow, you've got to see the vision. You've got to go toe-to-toe with Spurs and play good football. We've done it before. We can do it again. But I think, as I've said before, I think he's going to put Eriksen in the midfield. And I think that, to me, is just like, it could go one way or the other. There's a lot of new players at the club, so why hasn't there been a shift in mentality, says JM. Well, you know, you're probably asking the wrong person here, JM, because I keep hearing, I sound like that song, keep bleeding, I keep bleeding. Who sings that? I don't care what they say, I'm in love with you. They're trying to put me away. Oh, it's Leona Lewis, isn't it? Oh, God. That's bad. That's bad. Anyway, I keep hearing about the Joker. Welcome to Members Club. What a name. I keep hearing about style of play. And to be honest, I think it's getting a bit silly now. I don't think people understand what they're saying when they say style of play. I don't think they understand what style of play is. Like, we've had a style of play this season. It's very evident. It was very evident against Crystal Palace last week. It was very evident against Barnsley. It was very evident against Southampton. It was very evident against Fulham. It was very evident against Brighton. Liverpool not so much, and Twente not so much, to be fair. But not everybody plays well every game. Liverpool have bad games. Look at Forest. You know, Chelsea have bad games. So you don't get your style of play every week. It's become this mythical creature style of play where some Man United fans think you've got to see it 90 minutes of every single game. And you don't. You have bad games. And in your bad games, it's sometimes hard to see what the plan was. But I see a style of play this season already. So when you say there's a lot of new players at the club, so why hasn't there been a shift in mentality, JM? I would say, well, there's a lot of new players at the club, so you've got to give it time to settle, which is what Mazraoui has said himself. But we've had high possession in games. We've had high chance creation. We've created more chances than anybody in the Premier League, haven't we? Or we've missed more chances than anybody in the Premier League. We are sometimes playing that higher line. We're certainly getting higher possession in some games, and we're creating more chances. So I think that there is already a shift in mate. I mean, look, what we're comparing it to last season. I mean, we could play Pulis ball, and there'd be a better style of play than last season. Like, we are really comparing a corpse to someone running around your garden, jumping around in their pants with a t-shirt around their head. I mean, it's not a style of play, but it's still alive. Last season, we were playing dead football. So there is an improvement. There just needs to be more of an improvement. Football podcast, welcome to Members Club. Love the name. Delusional Unicorn says, Mark, I hope you're well. I don't see how we can lose to Spurs. I watched them play on Thursday and it was complete luck they won. They got ran through in the midfield and were lucky the only other team couldn't put the ball in the net. Now, look, I'm really, you know what, I'll be so happy if we win tomorrow. You know, I think this is what separates United fans at the moment. I think there's a lot of angry fans, and I don't think they'll admit it to themselves, but I think there's part of them that expects us to lose tomorrow and is ready for us to lose tomorrow in the sense of they're revved up and ready to go. Whereas I think a lot of fans are like, I don't trust us tomorrow, but I can see a situation if we win, and if we do win, I'm going to be buzzing, absolutely buzzing. I want that feeling tomorrow night. I want that feeling of a win, you know, going into a new week. I buzz off that, and I really want it to happen. And I hope the players feel like that as well. They shouldn't feel threatened, scared, or nervous. They should feel excited, invigorated, and ready. Because, look, it's the same in life. This happens in life all the time, and it's a lesson that, you know, somebody told me probably 10 years ago when I started doing this. And you get people who are abusive, and you sometimes think, I don't know why I bother doing it. And then somebody said to me, you know, one person who doesn't like you in a room of 100 people who do like you, if they don't say anything, you'll only ever hear the person who doesn't like you. But there's 99 other people in there that do. They just don't shout about how much they like you because they're normal people. The one who hates you is odd. They shout about it. They're obsessed. And it's true. So I think that if I was a United player, I wouldn't be taking any notice of the negativity. because I genuinely think there's a silent majority that are just desperate for us to win tomorrow, and we'll do our talking after the game tomorrow and show our appreciation. It's not really an easy time for people who want us to do well in this regime to start cheering and shouting about it, because you'll get absolutely ridiculed. But there is a massive silent majority that if we win tomorrow are ready to support this team and this manager, I suppose, and this structure. But there's no point putting your head above the parapet at the moment, because you'll just get shot down. The people who are most vocal at the moment are the people who want change. But that's the same in life, as I say all the time. Do you think there is something in Bruno and Rashi's contract renewals that they can't be dropped, says Dan. Dan, one day. Well, this leads nicely onto Ronaldo. So we've got an amazing poll running at the moment. Would we have been better off not signing Ronaldo? 50-50. Bloody hell. That is incredible. Well done, everybody who's getting involved in that. So the reason I mention this in relation to Dan is, if you've ever played Football Manager, when you sign a player, or even on FIFA games and stuff like that, when you sign a player, their role in the team is specified as guaranteed starter, rotational player, prospect, etc. That could just be for gaming effect. But when on Football Manager, it is so detailed. Look, let me just tell you this. It's a fact that people have all sorts in their contracts. It's not been put in for gaming effect. It's a reality. Ronaldo had stuff in his contract, and probably still has stuff in his contract now. I don't know whether Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, Casemiro, I don't know what they have in their contract. And a club would be very stupid to allow a player to have it in their contract that they will start every game that they're match fit, or they will start 75% of the games in a season. It would be stupid, but they do exist. In the world of journalism, where they speculate ridiculously about all sorts of things, it amazes me that nobody's ever lifted the lid on this, because I've seen contracts from ex-players. A lot of them keep copies of them, and there are all sorts of stuff in there, but we just never ever hear about it. And I understand why we don't hear about it, because if Man United had a player that's got to start 75% of the games in a season and we knew who it was, it takes the piss out of this romanticism that the manager picks the team. I don't know whether we've got a player at United that's got to start 75% of our games, but what I do know is some players do have that in their contracts in the general football world. So, but no one's ever blown the lid off it, Dan. So it's one of those sort of grey areas, I suppose. Ronaldo was Michelin star chef, startup cafe, says Keel. If Ten Hag sacked, would you take Tuchel or Nagelsmann, says Eden. I don't want Thomas Tuchel near Man United. I've said this before. I don't want him anywhere near United. I think he's a serial failure. I think he's got a very big ego. And I think that we've got players at this football club that he wouldn't want. So I don't think Tuchel suits Manchester United. Nagelsmann, I said back in March, and not, I'm firmly behind Ten Hag. I should always say that, and I am. But I said back in March, if you're twisting my arm and Ten Hag leaves Man United for whatever reason, then Nagelsmann would be the guy I would go for. So I just like his age profile. I like his style of football. I think he's a big risk, but I would go Nagelsmann over Tuchel, definitely. Ike says that's a bit of a brutal opinion on someone. I'm not a fan of Thomas Tuchel, and I don't care whether you are. And Oputa says serial failure, laugh out loud. But mate, it's called an opinion. Clip me up, get your retweets off me. Loads of people do it. All it does is grow this, so keep doing it. Love that. Out of context, in context, I don't care. But you ask me for an opinion and I give it, and then you don't like the opinion. Well, welcome to the world. Like, there are bad opinions, there are good opinions. I've always been consistent on this. I don't want Thomas Tuchel at Manchester United. I don't think he's the right fit. I think his personality is the wrong fit for what INEOS are trying to build. And I think if you stuck him into the structure we've got at the moment, I'd give it a year or two before it all falls apart. Fell apart at Chelsea, fell apart at PSG, fell apart at Dortmund, fell apart at Bayern. I just think he's trouble. I wouldn't go anywhere near him. But that's my opinion, isn't it? Would I back him if he got the job? Probably would. You know, I wouldn't say he's the worst manager in the world. I just don't think he's the right fit for Man United. I would never back Southgate. I'd be Southgate out from day one, and that's stubborn. That's stubborn, but I would be appalled at this football club if they went for somebody like that. What manager, what manager could do that? Eric Ten Hag in, says Gaz. Morning, Mark. Are you doing Newcastle City watch along? I am, Andy, yes. And if Sir Alex Ferguson came back a bit younger, do you think he would be able to build a squad to win the Premier League within 5 years, improving year on year? I think Sir Alex Ferguson at 50 would be an interesting point, Gaz. Yes. I'm not just saying this because he's doing well, but wasn't Hansi Flick available when INEOS came in? Just a thought. Still, I'm Ten Hag in, says Alex. Thank you very much. Yeah, I keep getting clipped up about Hansi Flick, and I don't really understand why. He's doing well at Barcelona. I mean, it's not that difficult to do well at Barcelona in the sense that it's virtually impossible to finish outside the top four, isn't it? But they've had a good start to the season. I don't remember what I said about Hansi Flick, and I can't be asked to watch clips because people take them out of context all the time. Look, I genuinely don't care about Hansi Flick, to be honest with you. All the best at Barcelona. I can't remember what the story was about him. I think it was... I don't remember. I genuinely don't remember, and I genuinely don't care. I wish him all the best at Barcelona. He's not Man United manager. And he was never really linked with the Man United job, is probably the truth, to be honest. I think he was somebody that the Ten Hag out brigade pretended they'd had talks with and wanted the United job, and I don't think there was ever really any links with Hansi Flick. I don't remember talking about Hansi Flick massively. I think he was just a manager that people... It's like these prats who mention Zidane. They know nothing about football. Like, just do your research on Zidane. He doesn't want to manage in the Premier League. Anyway, I want to talk about Ronaldo. Ike's here for the brutal opinion. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it how it is. That's how it is. If you disagree with it, you disagree with it. I said this last night. Ronaldo. So, look, this is what Solskjaer had to say about Ronaldo in his interview yesterday. I saw it anyway. He said we had to go and get him because he was going to go to Man City. And this fits in with Man United now, today, by the way, because that signing was successful. Well, basically, he said, look, we had to go and get him because he was going to go to Man City, and that could never happen. But he came in as a superstar. It changed the dynamics of the dressing room. Some players felt less important. And although Ronaldo did well, I was sacked 10 weeks later. So I think what Solskjaer is saying, and look, Solskjaer's a nice guy. He's never going to be blunt. But reading between the lines, Solskjaer is saying we had to buy him. We shouldn't have bought him. It damaged the squad. It damaged the dressing room, and I lost my job. That's basically what he's saying. I think the Man City thing's a bit of a red herring, you know, because I think that what really happened is, I'm going to say that I don't regret Ronaldo coming back, because I thought for that 9 months, having him back in a Man United shirt, I never thought I'd see that again. And when he left to go to Real Madrid in 2009, I was devastated. It's that probably hurt me more than Beckham leaving. You know, it was just because how good he was. He'd won the Ballon d'Or with us. We'd been to 2 Champions League finals in a row. We were winning the Premier League. He was just the best player in the world for me at that point. So to lose that was a hammer blow, and he was still very young. So when he came back, I was like, oh, you know, it's like the prodigal son returns. You're never going to turn your back on that. So I can't be a hypocrite. I'm never going to sit here and say we shouldn't have done it. I can't say we shouldn't have done it, because I wanted to do it, and I'd be lying to myself. You know, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's like me sitting here and saying, yeah, we should have sacked Ten Hag in May. In hindsight, well, the Goldbridge in May was adamant that we give him a 3rd year because we wanted to see what it was all about. You can't moan that the 3rd year doesn't go the way you want it to. I wanted to see what it was going to be all about. So I'm not going to betray myself. I'm not crying. I'm choking. I'm not going to... They poisoned me. I'm not going to betray myself. And I'm not going to betray myself on Ronaldo either. I know I wanted him back. I know I was desperate. I mean, there's a video. There's a video I never took down on That's Football when I thought Ronaldo was going to Man City. And I called him... I can't remember what I called him, but it would have been words to the effect of snake in the grass, betrayer, whatever you want to call it. So we had to stop him going to Man City. And I agree with him coming to the club, regardless of what Solskjaer or you say, even though it's 50-50. But what I will say is, was bringing Ronaldo back damaging to Manchester United? Yes. Would I change it? No, because I still stick with what I said at the time. You can't let him go to Man City, and bringing him back to Man United is fantastic. So that's my stance on it. What I do think about the Ronaldo thing is, though, what Solskjaer says is really relevant today. Why did Cristiano Ronaldo coming back into the Man United? I think it says a lot about that dressing room. Why does Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to Manchester United unsettle the dynamics of the dressing room and make certain players feel less important? Because to me, that's just Solskjaer again polishing a turd, which is Ronaldo coming back into the dressing room, knocked a few noses out of joint, caused a bit of division because they didn't like the fact that he was now the best player in the dressing room. And Ronaldo sort of said this at the time. I went in the dressing room telling people how to train, how to work, and they didn't want to listen. So when I hear Solskjaer saying bringing Ronaldo back ruined the dynamic of the dressing room and made some people feel less important, I interpret that as actually somebody who knows what the standards of the football club are, somebody who knows how hard you have to work to be the top, comes into the dressing room and other people are like, we don't want to do that. Who are you? And I think that's what happened. I think that is what happened. But I think ultimately, Ronaldo coming back to Manchester United, in my opinion, wasn't a bad thing. I think what it did, it highlighted the problems at Manchester United. It highlighted these big-time Charlie players that actually haven't got any substance. Because Ronaldo went and scored 18 goals in the worst Man United Premier League side that's ever been, and he was a service striker at that point. He wasn't the player that could pick up the ball and run. So he still managed to score 18 Premier League goals in a terrible United side. And he was still the Cristiano Ronaldo that was taking on the world, taking on the press, being told he was useless, being told he was past it, being told that he didn't press. I think Ronaldo came in with the right attitude and the right standards, but found a club that didn't have it anymore, but certainly had players with the ego that thought they were good enough. And I think that Ronaldo exposed the problems. And I think some people are listening to Solskjaer's interview and going, we never should have brought Ronaldo back because we were onto something with Ollie. I think we were onto nothing under Ollie. I think Cristiano Ronaldo came in with the attitude of wanting Manchester United to win titles and exposed the fact that they were bloody miles off. Because when a guy comes in and sets that standard and the players sulk and, go in their shells and cause toxicity and cause results to go downhill, it shows you that that dressing room was never right. So Solskjaer can say, well, I lost my job 10 weeks later and it upset the dressing room. But what did Ronaldo upset the dressing room doing? Scoring goals, setting a higher standard. If Ronaldo had come in like Alexis Sanchez and done nothing, okay. But he actually came in, was first to training, last out of training, moaning about the facilities, scoring goals, moaning about the standards, trying to get the team up to the level that it needed to be so he could win trophies. And they didn't want to go with him. So I don't think Ronaldo is the problem here. I think he actually exposed the problem. I also think that Ronaldo coming back to Manchester United exposed the change in football. We all like to believe that Manchester United is the great bastion of football, and Real Madrid is, and Barcelona is, and Bayern Munich is, and the power is with the clubs, but the power is with certain players. And when a player... Ronaldo effectively played us to get what he wanted. I'm going to leave Juventus and I'm going to play for Man City unless you want me. And Man United had to go and get him because he would have gone to Man City. So I think that played out the right way. I don't think there's anything... The club were right to stop him going to Man City. That would have been a bloody nightmare. And the fact that Solskjaer got sacked within 10 weeks was because he had the wrong players around him. I'd say he demanded better standards, says Rory, and some of the other players didn't want to put in that extra 1%. A few of those players remain at the club. Well, this is why I mention it, Rory, because someone said it's old news. Well, it's not old news because it actually came out from Solskjaer in the last couple of days. And a lot of people have been championing Solskjaer over the last couple of days. And I think that that's incredible. But this was maybe an angle where people could be more sympathetic to Solskjaer. But I think it exposes the weakness of Solskjaer. You know, you're the manager of the club. One of the best players in the world is given to you and your dressing room disintegrates. That shows weak management. That shows weak management. And the fact that you were sacked 10 weeks later shows that you couldn't deal with that dressing room. And the fact that Ronaldo exposed that dressing room and its weaknesses shows you how weak that dressing room was. Look, there are probably 2 players in the world that you would never question their desire to win the big prizes. One of them's Messi and one of them is Ronaldo. You drop them into your dressing room, you know they're not going to come in and go, where's the beers? Let's party. They're going to come in and go, I want to win everything we're competing for, and this is the standard. So you drop Ronaldo in your dressing room or Messi in your dressing room and it's your club. You know every minute of every day that they're at that club, they are setting the standard. And you hope that everybody else follows you. Look at Argentina in the World Cup. Look at Martinez. It wasn't Messi that won that World Cup individually. Loads of people stepped up to the plate, but Messi would have been setting the standard and pulling everybody up. And that's what Ronaldo's done throughout his career. They pull other players up. They don't always do it individually, but they pull everybody up because they set an amazing standard. So I can't sit here and honestly say, oh, it was a mistake to bring Ronaldo back, because he didn't do anything wrong. He set the standard. He scored the goals. The fallings out, well, what? People fell out because Ronaldo said, you're not working hard enough. You're earning all this money. You're a Man United player. You're not a Man United player. You're not fit to lace my boots. You're not fit to lace the boots of Paul Scholes. I played with Paul Scholes. I played with Ryan Giggs. I played with Wayne Rooney. I played with Vidic. I've played with the players that you are nowhere near, and this is what you need to do to be near them, and you won't do it because you think you should be on my level. Well, look at my career. Look at what I'm still doing. That's what you've got to do, and you don't want to do it. I think Ronaldo exposed it. So I don't have any sympathy for Solskjaer or any of the players, and I don't think it was a mistake to bring him back. I think the mistake was not listening to the problems until INEOS came in. And that's a Glazer problem again, isn't it? It's the same as not listening to Rangnick. And Rangnick and Ronaldo didn't get on. You know, I'm not saying Ronaldo's perfect, but it's not listening has been the problem. There was another thing as well. What was your thoughts on this? Did you see this thing from Tony Kroos that he was going to sign for Manchester United and then David Moyes got sacked, so he signed for Real Madrid because United pulled the plug on the deal when Moyes got sacked? I mean, it's a long time ago. That's 10 years ago now. It's more than 10 years ago. No, it's 10 years, isn't it? Is it 10 years since we sacked Moyes? 2014? Yeah, it's just over 10 years, isn't it? So, look, I read that just very, very quickly. Saw a lot of people on social media saying, oh, we should have kept Moyes because we would have got Kroos. No, we should not have kept David Moyes to get Tony Kroos. We definitely should. That's just one of those where I go, oh, well, Arsenal could have got Ronaldo before we got Ronaldo. You just have to go, oh, well, I would not have kept Moyes to get Tony Kroos. And it wouldn't have made any difference. I remember the David Moyes days. They were bloody horrible. And we've had some horrible days, but I wouldn't do that. Tony Kroos was not going to turn around that ship. He was out of his depth. He was like, David Moyes was like a guy wearing a pair of Timberlands in the deep end of a swimming pool. He was sinking and he was never going to swim to the surface. But it's interesting that Tony Kroos was close to coming to us, but nah, David, that was not going to turn us around. He was absolutely dreadful. And I would rather we didn't get Tony Kroos if it meant getting rid of David Moyes. I mean, this is the guy that walked into the football club after we'd won the title, sacked all the backroom staff, and basically walked around Old Trafford with a wrecking ball, smashing it all down, telling Vidic to, look at videos of Jagielka, I mean, I don't know how much of all this is true, but he was an absolute joke. And I tell you what, that's on the Glazers, that's on Woodward, and it's partially on Sir Alex. If he had any involvement in that, I don't know. I don't know what. Look, nobody's perfect, I suppose. That David Moyes thing was absolutely stupid, and it was signed off by a lot of people. I didn't want Moyes. We weren't doing the United stand at the time, but I didn't want Moyes. I was really adamantly against David Moyes. I felt that we should have gone for. I think you know what? Actually, topical again. When Sir Alex Ferguson left, I think we were in a very similar position to what INEOS were in the summer. I think that, you know, we would have liked to have gone from Sir Alex to Ancelotti or Pep or Mourinho, but they were all tied up to other jobs. And we ended up with nothing really there. So we went with Moyes. And I think the same thing happened in the summer. I think maybe INEOS had an ideal candidate to start their reign, but they looked around and they were like, well, Graham Potter's not the guy to replace Ten Hag. So I think similar things probably happened there. We're better in damn near every stat on both sides of the ball, creating more chances, yet people can't see improvement or what Ten Hag is building, says Brian. Khalid says, last 5 times I went to see United live, we've lost, and my father has forbidden me from going, but I'm on my way to Old Trafford tomorrow. Oh my God. He's the new Trey. Khalid, please don't go. Don't go. I'm begging you to stay. Please don't go. Rory, look, that Khalid, you've got me worried now. You've got me really worried. Why can't we play Anthony as a wing back, says Hyans. I don't understand this. Ollie needs to let it go. He didn't do very well, says John. Mad Max, thank you very much for your super chat. Appreciate that. Morning, Mark. I'm doing Newcastle versus City. Yes, Andy, I'm going to set that up in a minute. Appreciate that. Okay, well, look, that's your morning show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I am going to be live on That's Football for Newcastle against Man City and Wolves against Liverpool at 5:30. And we're back 8 o'clock, Saturday night 8 o'clock show. Loving doing these, binning off the old talk shit and doing United Stand at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night is what it's all about. Ethan, we'll talk about Chris Rigg at 8 o'clock because he probably will have played for Sunderland this afternoon, so it might be more relevant to talk about him because there's a little bit there. But I've got to shoot off quickly and I won't have time to cover that. It's at least 5 minutes. Mark, I love you. Give me cheers to the wife, says Billy. Thank you very much, Billy, and your wife. Even Harry Potter is better than this, says SA. I was like watching Harry Potter last night. Me and Seb were watching it last night. I'm going to watch a bit more this afternoon, I think. And Nevster says, so glad you talk sense about Moyes. He destroyed this club. Removing the backroom staff was criminal. Was a calf chef trying to run a Michelin restaurant. But you know what? In fairness to David Moyes, he gets sacked from West Ham because they can't stand his style of play. Why was he given the Man United job? We knew this in 2013. People are culpable for some of the things that they've gone along with at this football club. I'm not naming names because it's stupid, and some of these people are legends to me. But there are people at Man United that have gone along with decisions over the last 20 years that have really damaged this football club. And all I would say about that is nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes bad judgment calls. So when you listen to these people saying, I told you so, acting like they're right all the time, well, you may as well start bloody building yourself some holy places and running sermons because you're acting like you're bloody Jesus. Nobody is right all the time. Some of the biggest legends within this football club have made big, bad calls. David Moyes is one of them. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.